Welcome back, everyone, to the Virgin Palms Project Management Bootcamp. I'm so ready to dive into Module 2 with you all today. We're going to be talking all about project initiation, which is like setting the stage for a truly awesome performance, or I guess for us, a successful project.
I like that analogy. It really is about prepping for success, isn't it? Last time we took a look at the big picture of project management, and now we're zooming in on this critical first step.
Right, that's super important first step. So remind me, why is project initiation such a big deal?
Well, think about it like building a skyscraper. You wouldn't just start piling up floors without a solid plan and a super strong foundation.
Oh, definitely not. Talk about a recipe for disaster. Like, I can already picture a leaning tower of project chaos.
Exactly. We need those blueprints, those architectural plans, and that rock-solid foundation before even thinking about the penthouse suite.
Right, you can't just skip ahead to the fancy stuff.
Yeah.
So project initiation is all about establishing that strong base, that groundwork for the whole project.
Exactly. It's about ensuring everyone's on the same page with the goals, the end game, and that we're all anticipating potential roadblocks and agreeing on the path forward. We don't want that tower leaning or even worse, collapsing before it even gets off the ground.
Okay, that's a pretty vivid image.
hmm
So let's dive into the importance of the initiation phase. What are we risking if we decide to skip this step? Is it just a slightly crooked picture frame on the wall?
Huh. No, it's way more than that. Much more. It's like, okay, imagine this. You're setting off on a road trip across the country, no map, no GPS, and you don't even have a destination in mind. What do you think's going to happen?
I'm thinking lost, confused, maybe a little hangry,
Hmm.
definitely wasting time and gas money, and probably some pretty heated arguments in the car.
You got it. And it's the same with projects. Neglecting the initiation phase can lead to a whole bunch of issues. Unclear objectives, stakeholders pulling in different directions, valuable resources wasted on tasks that don't even move the needle. And then, of course, there's the dreaded scope creep. That can seriously derail even the most promising projects.
Okay, scope creep, now you got me really curious. Is that some kind of project management monster lurking in the shadows?
Huh. It can definitely feel that way. Imagine a tiny little vine sprouting in your garden. Seems innocent enough, right? But if you just let it go wild, it'll take over everything, engulfing everything in its path.
Wow, okay, I see where you're going with this. So that's scope creep, the uncontrolled growth of project requirements leading to all sorts of problems.
Bingo. Budget overruns, missed deadlines, a ton of stress for everyone involved. It's a real project killer.
Okay, I'm starting to see why a strong initiation phase is so important. Um, it's like having that clear roadmap, a trusty GPS, and a reliable car for our project road trip. You know where you're going, you're prepared for detours, and you've got the right vehicle to handle any terrain.
I love that. A robust initiation phase brings that much-needed clarity, aligns everyone involved, the stakeholders, and helps us anticipate those bumps in the road. It really does set the stage for a smoother journey and definitely increases the odds of reaching that final destination successfully.
So I'm thinking, before we build this skyscraper, what's the very first thing a really experienced builder checks? I'm guessing it's a rock-solid foundation.
You bet. And in project management, that foundation is the initiation phase.
Okay, that makes total sense. Now tell me, what are those essential components of this foundation? What do we absolutely have to nail down during this super important phase?
Great question. So in this module, we're going to cover several key components. First up is the business case. It's basically the why behind the project, the compelling reason why it exists, because it's not enough to just have a cool idea. We need to justify it, show its value, and prove it's worth everyone's time, effort, and resources.
So it's like the project's elevator pitch, like convincing the stakeholders to get on board and invest their time, money, and energy.
Exactly. You nailed it. It's like saying, hey, this isn't just a random idea. This project's going to solve this problem or create this amazing opportunity.
Makes total sense.
Think about it this way. Would you invest in a company without understanding their business model?
Um, Probably not a good idea.
Right. So the business case is essentially the project's business model. It outlines why the project even exists, why it matters, and answers those crucial questions. What problem are we solving? What opportunities are we creating? What are the potential risks and rewards? And ultimately, are we using our resources wisely by doing this project?
Those are all really good questions. And I know our source material for this module has some great real-world examples of business cases, like developing a mobile app to boost customer engagement or implementing a new patient management system to cut down those wait times at a hospital. These are all strategic initiatives with clear objectives and measurable benefits.
Absolutely. Those are perfect examples. And remember, a well-crafted business case doesn't just get that initial thumbs up. It's a living document that serves as a reference point throughout the entire project. If
Mhm.
things start to veer off course or someone questions the value of what we're doing, we can always point back to the business case.
Right, kind of like a reminder of the why behind all the hard work.
Exactly. And that can be super valuable in keeping everyone focused and motivated.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, so we've laid a solid foundation with the initiation phase, and we've got that compelling business case to back us up. Now, what's the next step in building our skyscraper? Do we start pouring the concrete?
Hold on. Before we even think about concrete, we need a detailed blueprint. And in project management, that blueprint is the project charter. That's our focus for the next module.
Okay, I like the sound of a blueprint. Sounds like it could prevent a lot of confusion and miscommunication down the line.
Oh, definitely. It's the formal document that outlines the project's roadmap. Think of it as the guiding document, the North Star that keeps everyone aligned and on track.
Gotcha. So the project charter acts like a contract between the project team and all the stakeholders involved.
Exactly. It clearly outlines the project's purpose, objectives, identifies those key stakeholders, defines the scope, outlines potential risks and constraints, and perhaps most importantly, spells out the roles and responsibilities.
Oh, so we're moving from the why to the how. We've established the project's purpose with the business case, and now we're figuring out exactly how to make it all happen.
Exactly. And just like having a recipe is essential for baking a delicious cake, that project charter is crucial for keeping our project organized and on track.
Right. Nobody wants a collapsed cake.
Nobody.
Okay, before we get too lost in blueprints and cake recipes, let's not forget about the people involved in this project, our stakeholders. They're kind of like the guests at our project party, right?
Love that analogy. We need to make sure we're inviting the right people, understanding what they expect, and of course, keeping them happy throughout the project.
Right. Neglecting the stakeholders is like committing a party foul.
Exactly. And nobody wants that.
So who exactly are these stakeholders? I'm picturing a pretty diverse group here, from the party planners and the caterers to the guests of honor and even the cleanup crew.
You're right, it is a diverse group. We can think of stakeholders in three main groups. First up, we've got the primary stakeholders. They're directly involved in the project. Think of it like the project team, the sponsors funding the project, and the end users, the customers, who are actually going to benefit from the project's outcome.
Okay, so those are the folks who are really invested in the project's success, the ones who are, baking the cake, funding the party, and then enjoying those delicious results.
Perfect analogy.
So who else is on our stakeholder guest list?
Next up, we have the secondary stakeholders. They might not be directly involved in the day-to-day work, but they're still affected by the project. So this group might include things like regulatory bodies, suppliers, or even the wider community.
Okay, so they might not be baking the cake, but they might be providing the ingredients or making sure the kitchen is up to code.
Exactly.
I'm starting to see how managing all these different stakeholders can get a little tricky. We need to understand everyone's role, what they expect, and how they might be impacted by the project, both the good and the bad.
Absolutely.
So who's our final group?
Last but definitely not least, we have the influential stakeholders. These are the folks with real decision-making power, the ones who can heavily influence the project's success. Think of them as executives, investors, or even government agencies. They might be the ones signing off on the budget, setting the overall strategic direction, or issuing those all-important permits.
Wow, sounds like we've got a whole party committee to manage. Any tips on keeping everyone happy and engaged throughout the whole project?
Of course, effective stakeholder management really comes down to three things: communication, alignment, and proactive engagement. We need to understand what they expect, keep them in the loop about the project's progress, and address any concerns promptly and respectfully.
Right, it's all about building those good relationships.
Absolutely, making sure everyone feels heard and valued.
That makes sense. So we've got the importance of a well-defined initiation phase, we've created a strong business case, and we're starting to understand the complexity of stakeholder management. What are some of the key takeaways our listeners should remember as they continue their project management journey?
So here are a few key takeaways. First, remember, a successful project really depends on a solid initiation. That involves defining the why with that compelling business case, but also clarifying the how with a detailed project charter.
Got it.
Second, remember the project charter is like your North Star. It guides you through the entire project lifecycle.
Love that analogy.
And lastly, never underestimate the power of effective stakeholder management. Seriously, it can make or break a project.
I believe it.
So, identify, analyze, and engage your stakeholders right from the start.
Right. Those are super important points to remember. And for our listeners, here are some reflection questions to consider as you move forward. Think about a project you're currently working on, or maybe one you're getting ready to start. Ask yourself, is the purpose of this project crystal clear? Do all those key stakeholders agree on what success actually looks like? And have you identified any major risks that could pop up along the way?
Those are excellent questions to consider.
And one more, how will you ensure everyone's communicating effectively and collaborating throughout the entire project?
Those are all important things to think about. A well-executed initiation phase really does set the stage for a smoother project journey, and it dramatically increases your chances of actually achieving your goals.
That's some solid advice. And that's a wrap for part 1 of Module 2.
Okay, so we've laid the groundwork. That solid initiation phase, a compelling business case. We've got a detailed project charter, and we've mapped out our stakeholders and what they're expecting. But even with the best planning in the world, projects rarely just sail through, calm waters without hitting a few storms.
The inevitable storms of project management. I'm guessing those storms aren't always predictable, are they? What kinds of challenges should we be ready for?
Yeah, you're right. We can't predict every single wave that's going to come our way, but we can definitely equip our project ship, I love to think of it as, with the right tools and the right strategies to weather those storms. And one of the most common challenges we face is the need to manage change and risks.
Right. I mean, since things change, unexpected things pop up, and sometimes that carefully crafted project charter needs a little tweaking, how do we navigate these changes without, completely capsizing the project?
Well, that's where a really solid change management process comes in. Remember that scope creep monster we talked about earlier?
Oh, I definitely remember that.
A formal change management process is like our secret weapon. It makes sure that any proposed changes are carefully looked at, we assess the impact, and they're only approved if they truly align with the project objectives and, that big picture business case.
Gotcha. So no more random additions or those last-minute requests that throw everything off track. I can see how that would save a ton of headaches.
Absolutely. A clear process keeps everyone accountable, and it ensures those adjustments are made strategically, not on a whim. It helps us stay in control of the timeline, the budget, and ultimately the project's success.
That's reassuring. But what about those unpredictable risks? How do we prepare for every possible storm that might be brewing out there?
Well, we can't see every risk coming. We can definitely be proactive. Think of it like equipping our project ship with radar and, of course, a skilled navigator. We scan the horizon for potential storms, we figure out how likely they are to hit and how bad the impact could be, and then we develop strategies. Either avoid them completely, minimize the impact, or have a backup plan ready to go if they do hit.
Okay, so it's like having insurance for the project. We hope we never need it, but it's there just in case things go sideways.
Yeah.
What kind of risks are we talking about? Are we talking like rogue waves, sudden squalls, or maybe even pirate attacks?
Well, maybe not pirates. But the risks in project management can be just as disruptive. Imagine a key supplier going out of business, or a new regulation that affects your industry, or even a crucial team member unexpectedly leaving the project. These are all risks that could really throw a wrench in the works.
Okay, yeah. Starting to feel a little seasick just thinking about it.
Don't worry. That's where risk assessment comes in. We identify those potential risks, we analyze how likely they are and how big of a deal they could be, and then we develop strategies to mitigate those risks, to lessen the impact.
So we're not just passively hoping for calm seas. We're actively looking out for storms and plotting alternate routes if we need them. And if we can't avoid them, we're battening down the hatches, so to speak.
Exactly. A well-defined risk management plan not only protects the project, it builds confidence with the stakeholders. They know we're thinking ahead and we're prepared for the unexpected. It's all about navigating those choppy waters skillfully and with foresight.
Okay, I'm feeling a little better now, knowing we've got a plan to deal with changes and risks. It's like having a really good captain and a reliable crew to handle whatever comes our way. So what's next on our project voyage?
Now, let's talk about something that's really the lifeblood of any successful project: Communication. We touched on stakeholder management earlier, but now we're going to dive deeper into some really effective communication strategies. Think of it like setting up a clear and reliable communication system on our project ship.
Makes sense. We've got our captain, our crew, our passengers, and even folks back on shore who need updates on our progress.
Mhm.
What are the key elements of a good communication strategy? We're talking like carrier pigeons, semaphore flags, maybe satellite phones.
Haha, no carrier pigeons. But the principles are the same. We need to establish really clear communication channels, set expectations for how often and in what format we communicate, and make sure that information flows smoothly between everyone involved. Remember, we've got a whole bunch of people on board with different roles, different responsibilities, and different information needs.
Right, like the captain probably needs detailed reports on the ship's navigation and performance, while the passengers might just need a daily update on our location and the weather.
Exactly. We need to tailor our communication to each group, give them the info they need in a format they understand and at a frequency that works for them. And we can't forget about those unexpected situations, those storms that require us to think fast and communicate clearly to keep everyone informed and on the same page.
This makes me think about all those different communication tools we have available: emails, meetings, project management software, instant messaging. It can feel a little overwhelming sometimes, like trying to figure out a bunch of messages in bottles.
Yeah. You're not wrong. It can be overwhelming. That's why it's so important to choose the right tools for the right people and the right situations. And remember, it's not just about the tools themselves. It's about clarity, consistency, and making sure everyone understands the message.
So no cryptic messages or secret codes then.
Definitely not. We want to use clear language, jargon-free language that everyone can understand. And setting up regular communication patterns like weekly status meetings or monthly reports keeps everyone in the loop and helps identify potential problems early on. It's about being proactive and avoiding those, wait, I didn't know about that, moments that can cause confusion and delays.
This is making me realize that good communication isn't just about transmitting information, it's also about listening. Really listening, understanding different perspectives, and making sure there's open dialogue. It's like having a crew that not only follows orders, but also feels comfortable sharing their observations, concerns, and ideas.
You're absolutely right. Active listening is so crucial. Pay attention to what your team members and stakeholders are saying, not just the words they're using, but their body language too. Encourage open and honest feedback and address any concerns quickly and respectfully.
This has been so insightful. Communication really is like the glue that holds everything together, from, building the ship to actually navigating it successfully. I'm starting to see how all these modules connect and build on each other to create this like solid framework for managing projects.
That's exactly what we're aiming for. Each module builds on the previous one, layer by layer, to give you a comprehensive understanding of how to manage projects effectively. We've covered managing changes, managing risks, and now we've really explored the importance of communication. So what's next on our project initiation journey? What else do we need to equip our project ship for a successful voyage?
Well, we've got the ship, we've got our crew, we've got our communication systems up and running, and we're prepared for the unexpected. What are we missing?
Now it's time to create a detailed project schedule. We're talking about timelines, tasks, those dependencies we talked about earlier, and all the crucial elements that will help us navigate the project efficiently and reach our destination on time. It's like charting our course and setting our sails for success. So we've charted our project course, right? Got our sails set for success. But, without the right resources, that ship's not going anywhere.
Right. I mean, we've got the plan, but we still need the people to make it all happen,
Right.
And the tools they'll need to do the job.
Exactly. We're talking about resource allocation. Like, we can't just set sail without a skilled crew, the right supplies, enough food in the galley, and of course, fuel for the engines.
Okay, so I'm seeing the connection here. Resource allocation is like transforming all those blueprints and charts into actual action.
Right.
We're assembling the dream team, equipping them with everything they need, and then giving them the green light to execute the plan.
You got it. It's about identifying and securing those essential resources. The people, the equipment, the technology, and of course, the budget to bring our project to life.
Right, the fuel that keeps everything moving. So how do we approach resource allocation effectively? What are the key steps to consider?
Well, first and foremost, we need to identify all the resources required for each task in our project schedule. This includes specific team members with the right skills and experience, any specialized software or technology, physical equipment or materials, and of course, the budget allocated to each phase of the project.
Got it. So it's kind of like creating a detailed shopping list for our project voyage, right? Making sure we've got everything we need before we set sail.
Absolutely. And once we know what we need to figure out when we need it. Some resources might be required throughout the entire project, while others are only needed for specific tasks or phases.
And this is where our super detailed project schedule comes into play, right? Like our navigation chart that guides us on the timing of our resource needs.
Exactly. The project schedule helps us map out when we need each resource, so we can be proactive about securing those resources and making sure they're ready when we need them.
Okay, that makes sense. So we're avoiding those last-minute scrambles or potential bottlenecks that could slow us down.
Precisely. And we also want to avoid overbooking our resources or spreading them too thin. Everyone needs the right tools and support at the right time, but no one wants to feel overwhelmed or burnt out.
Right, balance is key. Speaking of balance, what about the budget? How do we make sure we're allocating resources within our financial constraints? We don't want to run out of fuel halfway through the journey.
That's crucial. Remember that clear budget we established back in the initiation phase? Well, now it's time to put it into action. Allocate those funds wisely. Prioritize tasks, consider cost-effective alternatives, and track those expenses carefully to ensure we're staying on track financially. Think of it as managing the ship's treasury, making sure we have enough gold to fund our voyage without running aground.
This reminds me of all those times I've gotten a little carried away with personal projects, like planning a big trip or renovating a room in my house. It's easy to overspend, only to realize later that I've blown the budget.
Happens all the time. That's why having a clear budget and a reliable system for tracking expenses is so essential for project success. And just like with any budget, we need to be flexible. Make adjustments, consider trade-offs along the way. Sometimes you might need to cut back in one area to invest more in another, always keeping the big picture in mind, your overall goals and those financial constraints.
So it sounds like effective resource allocation is about planning, prioritizing, and being flexible. Like, adjusting to those changing winds and currents to stay on course.
You got it. It's about making strategic decisions, ensuring the right resources are in the right place at the right time, executing the project efficiently and effectively.
This has been so insightful. I'm starting to see how all those pieces of project initiation fit together to create a really solid foundation for any project. Like, we're not just building a ship, we're assembling a well-equipped ship, setting it on course for a successful voyage.
I love that analogy. And that's the goal, isn't it? To equip you with the knowledge and tools to confidently initiate your projects. We've talked about that well-defined initiation phase, the compelling business case, navigating those stakeholders, managing changes and risks, building that solid project schedule, and now allocating resources effectively.
So much good stuff. Any final recommendations for our listeners, especially those who want to streamline that resource allocation process? Are there any tools or techniques we haven't mentioned yet?
Well, project management software can be a game changer, seriously. These platforms have features like resource calendars, budget tracking, and task assignment, which can make your life so much easier. Think of it as a digital first mate, keeping track of everything and making sure things run smoothly.
Right, so it's like having a virtual assistant to help us manage all those moving parts.
Exactly. And remember, even with the best tools, communication is still key. Check in with your team regularly, discuss any potential issues, and be open to adapting and making changes as needed.
Right, it's a team effort after all. Well, this entire module has been packed with valuable insights. I think our listeners are now well equipped to embark on their own project management adventures.
That's awesome. And hey, remember, the learning journey doesn't end here. Be sure to check out www.virginpalms.org for even more resources, templates, and those learning opportunities we talked about earlier.
Excellent reminder. For everyone who's ready to put their new knowledge to the test, get ready for Module 3, where we'll dive into the exciting world of project planning and execution. Until then, happy project initiating.
And remember, a strong beginning is half the battle won.
This service has been brought to you by Virgin Palms. For more resources, visit www.virginpalms.org.